How would you like to know how to get 2 to 3 times more sales than you're getting right now from your offer or service? If that sounds too good to be true, watch this episode. It is sure to knock your socks and shoes off. I'm O Dowd, and this is the show that brings you profit-producing secrets from the greatest marketers in the world. My guest today is Dan Lehman, one of the greatest webinar marketers in the world, who oversees a $100,000 a day ad spend on Facebook traffic. Dan is one of the most prolific split testers and monetization experts I know, and trust me, this episode will be worth gold to any marketer, advertiser, or business owner that generates customers on the internet. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Caleb. I'm excited to be here. I'm Dan Lehman. I work with a company called Knowledge Source, and we're a publisher. And we publish other experts and drive traffic to their offer. Or we craft the offers, we build the webinars, we build out the funnels, and spend an awful lot of money on advertising, scaling those offers up to a pretty big size. So we don't publish a lot of people. We just publish a small number of people, but to a very, very big scale.
So is it just webinars that you guys focus on? Do you do any VSLs? Is it exclusively webinars?
Yeah, no, exclusively webinars. So it all goes add to webinar registration, and then we pitch directly on the webinar. So we haven't got anything where I know what a common funnel is, webinar to call. We don't do that. We pitch on the webinar about a 2K price point, and then we have a back end around about a 10K price point on the back end. How's
the high volume webinar game these days on cold traffic?
I've always got to laugh, right? Because every time I look here and there and everyone's like, webinars are dead. And I'm like, well, we're spending $100,000 a day running to webinars. So they seem to be working all right for us. I guess you just got to know how to use them, right?
Are you operating on a lot of different traffic channels? Is it Facebook, YouTube, the usual?
So it's mostly Facebook, actually. It's 90% Facebook. We have quite a hard time with YouTube lately. It used to be the other way around. It used to be all YouTube and not so much Facebook, and probably flipped around 18 to 24 months ago. And now we're just having a hard time getting YouTube scaling. I mean, we're still spending, 10, 15 grand a day, which to a lot of people is a fair bit of money, right? But most of it's going to Facebook.
Yeah. One of the things that I was most impressed by with you guys is, and the reason why I think we're so aligned in terms of how we think, is that you guys make an awful lot of money on the back end. You're not just front end acquisition marketers. So you guys acquire, are you taking a hit on the front end and making it up on the back end? Are you guys breaking even? Are you profitable on the front end? What kind of business model are you applying?
Little tiny bit profitable on the front end, almost nothing. And then everything on the back end is cream. And it's funny, I speak to a lot of people about their traffic and their funnels and all of that sort of stuff. And this is a story you'd hear a lot. I hear a lot more than you'd think. They're like, I can't seem to scale. I'm running traffic and it's fine when I'm not spending much, and I go to scale and it all falls apart. Yeah. And I say, okay, tell me your numbers. What's your ROI? And they're like, I'm doing like a 7x ROI. And whenever I add a bit more money, it goes down to 5. I'm like, so? Yeah. If you're doing a 7x ROAS, and if you double your profits, your ad spend, and it goes down to 5, well, you're making more money, right? And what we like to say in our company is you can't bank ROAS. It doesn't matter what your ROAS is. All that matters is at the end of the day is how much money you're making. And obviously that you're looking after customers as well. But from a business perspective, you can bank the profits. So we really optimize to profit, not to ROAS, if that makes. I mean, obviously ROAS is a step toward profit, but our ROAS is deliberately low. If my media buyers came back and said, guess what, we're doing a 2x ROAS on the front end, I'd be slapping them around saying, why? Go spend some more money, right?
It's interesting. I learned this lesson in direct mail like 20 years ago. And if there were mail managers, there were guys that managed mailings. And if their mailing returned a profit, they would be fired, because the impact that the financial loss that they would have taken on the back end by making a 10 or a 20% profit up front was a fireable offense. It was an enormous loss. And from that experience, it just reminded me of it. From that experience, I always like concluded there's no money on the front end. If you're making money acquiring a customer, you're doing it wrong. You're losing money later on down the line. And, you have it in your experience, so many guys coming to you with exactly that issue. And I'm the same. Novice marketers attempt to profit on customer acquisition. The professionals, always shoot to profit on like the back end. And it's just universally the same, and even if a company is doing well on the front end, they don't really have a business unless they have, a monetization strategy on the back end. So I would love to hear, about like what it is that you guys do on the back end. I know you do like a number of different things from listening to you and speaking to you. Could you maybe walk us through what it is that you guys are doing to like monetize and perhaps the systems or the strategies or the campaigns and things that you're doing on the back end?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that we do that's really cool is on the front end, we say we're going to give you 3 calls. We're going to give you a small group onboarding call, a one-on-one goal setting call, and a momentum call. Now, this is great because on the front end, it sounds like, and it is a value add, right? This is a bonus. If you order today, you'll get these things. So that is part of the overall package that we're delivering. But the great thing is it costs us nothing to deliver because those calls. So I'll talk about the second call first. The goal setting call is a setter call. So for anyone that doesn't know, a common strategy for backend sales is you have a setter that sort of pre-qualifies the lead and sets that lead for a closer, and the closer will close the sale. So our goal setting call is exactly that. Hey, what are your goals? What do you want to achieve? So we're in the business opportunity niche. So people, I want to make all of the money in none of the time. That's pretty much everyone's goal, right? And it's like, oh, wow, sounds like you've got some really ambitious goal and you want to, drive this forward very quickly. I think you might benefit from some coaching. Would you like to speak to one of our consultants about coaching? And then you can push them through the closure and the closer will go and close the 10K deal. So the beauty is how that works together seamlessly, right? Because we offer that one-on-one call on the front end. Looks like it has a lot of value, and it does. And then we do the goal setting, and then we push that off. So that's one way that we drive people into the goal setting. Now, the reason that we have before that a small group onboarding is that before we did that, we were just jumping straight to the goal setting, and that goal setter was dealing with I can't find my logins. Where do I go to register for the weekly group coaching calls? How do I do this? How do I do that? So they're just dealing with admin type stuff, and we don't want that person dealing with that stuff, right? We want them to be able to pitch or at least prepare the pitch for the closer. So that's why we moved out the small group onboarding call so they could deal with all of the customer service admin type stuff. So then on the onboarding call, at the end of the onboarding call, every time is, okay, guys, your very first step now is to go and book your goal setting call. Go do that now. I'll wait. And the person running the onboarding call will stand there and go, okay, I can see Mike's done it, and John's done it, and Mary's done it. Claire, we're still waiting for you to book it. Go and book your call and actually hold them accountable right there on the call, get them to book it in.
I was always particularly interested in the way that you guys do this because I myself in my own business have been doing, we call them welcome calls. I was only ever doing one call. And I always wanted those calls to be as short as humanly possible, but they always ran on for this very reason. The start of the call, we would shoot for like 15 minutes of getting the person into the program, getting them into the training, making sure they have the logins. The second thing that we would do is we would find out specifically what their goal was, like what are you trying to achieve? And they would say, oh, I'm trying to achieve X. We would confirm that this solution you just bought is exactly going to get you X. And we found that when you say, what's your goal? And, we say, yeah, this is exactly what's going to get you to accomplish your goal. That lowered refunds for us. Then we decided we were going to put a plan together, to implement, take action, set a goal. And then at the end, we would have, a pitch to, get on the phone with, somebody who could tell you about a faster way to get to where you want to go with the next level of service. We tried to cram all of that into one call. And while it was effective, it was lengthy. And like the fact that you guys kind of break that out over 3 calls, I think is far more efficient. And so I understood the first call. I understand the second call. What was the third call again? Can you take us through the?
So the third call is a momentum call. So one of the biggest objections you'll always get is when it's like, hey, do you want some coaching? Do you want to talk about this? You'll always, or a very, very common one you'll get is, let me just try what I've just bought first and let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
So we've already scheduled in the 45-day momentum call. So the way that is positioned is, hey, we just want to jump on a call. Like we actually give this as a bonus on the webinar in the first place. So they already know it's coming. We're going to jump on a call after 45 days. We'll have already done your goal setting call, so we know what your goals are. We just want to make sure you're on track at the 45-day mark, that you're on track to hit your goals. And if you're not, we'll come up with a plan to get you back on track. And the plan is usually get some coaching, right?
Yeah.
But so that's what the momentum calls for is. It's a great value add for them to touch base, make sure you're on track. And it just gives us another bite of the cherry of, hey, do you want to talk about coaching? So that's a momentum call. I do have another way that we're getting back in sales too, if you want to hear about that one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So as well as all of that stuff, so from that, we're converting about 11 to 12% of our 2K buyers into a 10K, give or take. And then we also do, so once a quarter, we're doing them at the moment, just these big one-day events. So come along to our one-day events. Often we have guest speakers there, just whatever we can do to get more and more people there. We actually had Jack Canfield at one of our events because
nice.
the product is teaching people how to publish books to Amazon Kindle. So an author like Jack Canfield, very relevant for the event. And so we get people along the event. It's one day, full of content, and then there's a pitch to book a call for the coaching. And the sales reps absolutely love those leads. They all fight over those leads and bring them immediately because they convert like gangbusters. Anyone that's been to the one-day event and then they book that call, they convert really, really well. So we probably pick up another sort of 3 or 4% there. So we end up at about 15%.
Wow. Do you guys do any direct mail?
We don't, no.
Wow.
I know that's your expertise, mate. I might have to hit you up about that one.
Yeah, I mean, what we do a lot is on the thank you page, like after the order confirmation page, after somebody orders, we would have a little section there that says, hey, we would love to send you. Usually we do it with like a hat. So we would whatever the concept of the product might be, we would have like a hat. Like I sold a training there on, the principles of alchemy marketing. And we got this hat and it said alchemist on the top of it. And we said, hey, we'd love to send you this hat to your home. Just enter your details there, your home address. And then we would send a couple of emails. And we would usually get about 80% of people to give us their home address. We would send the hat along with like a classic Gary Halbert dollar bill letter. And, there was kind of a cover letter that said, welcome aboard, when you sit down to work on your goals, put this hat on, it's like your thinking cap, and it'll always remind you of like where you're going and what you're doing. By the way, open up the envelope, that accompanied the hat, and there would be a number 10 envelope, and then in that envelope was a letter that usually an 8-page letter. It had a dollar bill like attached to the top of it, and it's kind of the Gary Halbert classic dollar bill strategy, which was, dear Dan, as you can see, I attached a dollar bill to the top of this letter. Why have I done this? Actually, there's 2 reasons. Reason number 1, what I have to share with you, is so important. I needed a way to capture your attention, so I thought attaching a dollar bill would really do that. Number 2, what I have to tell you involves making a lot of money or saving a lot of money. And I thought, putting a dollar bill at the top of the letter would be especially appropriate. Here's what it's all about. And then you just send them into like the pitch for your 10K thing. Very effective. Usually 9 out of 10 people that give you their home address will open that. And we'll read that. And there's easily another 5 to 10%. If you have a hard hitting like VSL and it's just sending them, in your case, it's a coaching offer. This can be used to sell anything, but in your case, you guys do coaching. Just send them straight to like the calendar to schedule a call. Very effective. Really, really powerful. I love direct mail, man. We love doing
that's
it.
your background, isn't it?
Exactly. So other than you've got the 1-day event, you've got the welcome call, that 3-part strategy there, which is genius, brilliant. And, I know that it's a cornerstone of your business model, and you can see, the kind of conversions you guys are getting at 10K, which is enormous. So what do you guys do with the customers thereafter? Is there any further monetization that goes on? Do you like send them to different offers? Like what else do you guys do?
We typically silo them at least for a period. Just it's very hard in biz to sort of, especially with what we're doing, right? We're teaching people how to publish books and put them on Kindle. I just don't think there's any room to sell them anything for 20, 50K, right? So we typically just silo those guys. We just want to make sure they're looked after. We actually care about the results. So we're not just pitching them a bunch of stuff. Maybe after 6 months, they can come out and we'll start pitching them something else, because by then either they've made a success of it or they want to see something else. But we don't monetize them a lot after the 10K sale.
By the way, if you are enjoying the show, just a quick reminder to press the like button, subscribe to this channel for more useful monetization tips, and turn on notifications so you don't miss all of the great tips that are coming in future episodes. And thank you for sharing this episode with your friends and your colleagues. I really, really appreciate it. Back on the front end there, a lot of guys struggle to kind of test webinars. It's a lot of money to kind of test and get a statistically relevant, quantity of sales within a budget that's affordable for guys that are launching webinars. Could you maybe take us through like some of the strategy that you are using for testing webinars, some of the metrics that are important to you, like some of the maybe rules that you guys use in terms of determining what's working versus not working?
Sure. You're absolutely right. This is something that's very tough, and we're sort of in a fortunate position that we're making so much from one offer that we can white knuckle it through with the next one. If we lose a bit, we've made it, right? But it is tough because the only metric that matters, there is only one metric that matters, and that is, ROI. How much are you spending? How much are you making back? And I'll give you an example of this, because I know an answer that you might expect to hear, and a lot of people will expect to hear, is, I want to make sure the leads are coming in cheap. Yeah. That's not the case at all. Like the lead cost is almost irrelevant. I was doing this exercise the other day, and I was having a look at our top and second top performing campaign. And one of them, the leads were coming in at like $80, and the other one, the leads were coming in at $20.
Wow.
So like there was a 4x difference, and they were our top and second top. And what you typically find is that with Facebook's just very good at knowing the value of people. And the more expensive the lead, the better the lead, typically. In fact, for us, it's often the case that the more expensive the lead, the better the ROI. Now, within reason, right? Like sometimes your lead's expensive because you've got a crap ad that's not hit, and that's never going to work. But if I've got the same ad running to 2 campaigns to different audiences, and one of those audiences is more expensive and it's the same ad, typically, or very, very often, I won't say always, but very often, the one that's more expensive will give me a better ROI. So this is why it is very, very difficult, because if you're just optimizing to lead costs, which I've done in the past before, right, where you're trying to get as cheap a lead as you can, you might be getting crappier traffic. And here's an example. So our typical leads are about $70 Australian, call it $40, $50 American, US. And we were getting these English leads from the UK for $8. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And we're spending all this money and not getting any sales. We could not make this thing work. And we're trying all these different things, couldn't make it work. We ended up just switched it off. And a few weeks later, I will turn UK leads back on, same ads, turned it back on. The leads were costing us like $30 and they were profitable. Couldn't make them work at $8. So that was a long tangent just to say don't look at lead cost. I realize.
Yeah.
I guess a couple of things that I am looking for is click-through rates. So I really want to see a bare minimum of 1%, preferably a little bit higher on my click-through rates. So because the click-through rate's going to tell you if your ad's hitting or not, right? If no one's clicking on your ad, no one has any interest in that particular hook, maybe you want to tweak your hook a little bit. I'm looking for show rates as well. That's typically a good indicator of the quality of your traffic. So if you're paying a high cost per lead and you've got a poor show rate, then it indicates that your high cost per lead might be because of your poor creative instead of because you've got good traffic. Does that make sense? So I said the cost per lead doesn't matter, and it doesn't.
It doesn't matter until it matters.
That's right? It's not that it doesn't matter. It's that a high cost per lead is not necessarily a bad thing. Let's say that, right? But if you've got a high cost per lead in conjunction with a low show rate, then that's a bad thing because the high cost per lead, because the low show rate shows me that I don't have quality traffic. So my high cost per lead is probably not because of the quality of traffic, and therefore it's probably because of my creative. Is that making sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
I can't even remember the original question. Did I answer
it? So from that point forward, you've let's say you've got an ad. It's got a higher than a 1% click through rate. You're getting leads at a good cost. People are turning up for the webinar. What kind of things are you looking for from that point forward? Like, are you like, how do you break up the performance of a webinar and identify, whether something is working, whether something is not working? I get this a lot. A lot of people will come to me and they're saying, oh, my ad isn't working, when in reality, they're not looking at the math of the business. They're not looking at the data. And everything is great except the offer sucks. But they're focusing on the ad. They're thinking, oh, my ad isn't working. When in reality, everything is working all the way down until the point that you drop the link, in this case, in a webinar, and then everything falls apart. And, I'm wondering how you think about the performance of a webinar. So if you've got guys and they're turning up for the webinar, but how do you break down the components of a webinar from that point forward and figure out what needs to be fixed and what needs to be optimized?
Sure. So, obviously the answer is sales, right? If I know, so my first step is, if it's not working, I want to find why isn't it working. So is it, like you just said, is it the ad? Is it the webinar? There's only really three things it can be. Your creative, your I guess your creative or your landing page, I kind of look at them as a pair, right? Because they should have the same messaging, ideally. So either your creative / landing page, your webinar, or your creative / landing page or webinar, or your traffic. That's the other thing it can be. You could be sending some rubbish traffic. And another advantage that we have, because our volume's so high, is we are able to optimize on a 2K sale, which most people can't do, right? You need to do a lot of sales to optimize on that. So most people will be optimizing on lead. That's why our lead cost is so high, by the way. I talked about a $70 lead. It's because we're optimizing on purchase. If we optimize on lead, our lead cost would be like 1/6 of the amount, but we would convert 1/8 of the amount. Like the traffic is just that much better. I got off topic. So step one is identify the problem. Is it creative? Is it audience? Is it webinar? And the way that we're doing that, so are we getting a decent click-through rate? That's how you know if it's creative or not. No, we're not getting a decent click-through rate. You probably got a creative problem. We're getting a decent click-through rate. Are we getting a decent show-up rate? That gives us an idea of whether the audience is a quality audience. We're getting a decent show-up rate. We're not closing sales. Then the problem is probably the webinar. So how do you find what the problem is in the webinar? Honestly, it's very hard. I know a lot of people will be like, I'm looking at the times that they're dropping off and all that sort of stuff. I don't find that super useful, because let's say they're dropping off at the 30-minute. Well, they're always going to be dropping off along the way anyway, right? But let's say a few more people were dropping off between 30 and 35 minutes than anywhere else. Well, that doesn't mean there was a problem at the 30-minute mark. That just made you board them up until the 30-minute mark. they finally had enough at that point, right? But typically in the webinars I'm running, I'm not like swearing at them or abusing them or really offending them at a certain point. So really it's just a case of, oh, damn, my webinar's not working. I just need to go back, watch it again. What did I do wrong? What can I do better? And just have another crack. And I've had the biggest, we've just launched a product recently. And exactly this happened, right? We sort of had iteration 1. All of this happened. The webinar just wasn't converting as well as I thought it would. So I came back, I've got a way I could do this better. I did version 2 and it got a whole bunch better, but not good enough. I've got an idea to do it better. But it's really just me looking at it, watching it and going, what can I do better? And I'm on version 5 now, although 4 never made the light of day. I recorded 4 and then went, actually, I want to do it this way. So, but yeah, it's converting well now. We're spending on that one $25K a day and we're on the way up. So it's going well.
Sweet. So many guys ask me as well about like the targeting on Facebook. You know, there's interest audiences, there's broad targeting, there's countries, there's lookalike audiences. How do you guys go about your targeting at kind of the levels that you guys are operating on? Where do you start at some place and kind of scale into somewhere else? Like what is your targeting strategies?
Yeah, it's really just a lot of throw all the mud at the wall and see what sticks. Honestly. I think, but it's worth mentioning too, I talked about this before, I think targeting is almost less important than what you're optimizing on. So I'll just explain in case anyone listening doesn't understand how the optimization works. So you can say to Facebook, send me more people like these, right? So obviously, if you want Facebook to send you anyone, you want them to send you more like your buyers. But what happens is Facebook looks at all of the data you're sending them and goes, okay, I'll do my best to send people just like that. Now, the more data you send them, the more accurate they can be. So if you will say, if you give Facebook all your leads and say, send me more people like these, the leads, and you're doing 1,000 leads a day, Facebook's going, oh, wow, I've got thousands and thousands of people to look at. I know exactly the sort of people that you're after. And Facebook will look at a million different data points, age and gender and the pages they've liked and who knows what else. So they've got so much data on every single person. They'll look at the set that you gave them, the leads, and they'll go, I know exactly the sort of people that are going to sign up for what you're talking about. That one, I'll send you those. And that's why you're able to, when you're optimizing on lead, you'll get really cheap leads because that's what you're optimizing for. The ideal is to optimize on sales because then they're like, I know exactly the sort of people you're talking about. You want people like this, this, and this, and they send you those. Now, they're more expensive because they're higher quality leads. So like I said, we'll pay easily 5 times more money for those leads than we will for the optimize on leads, but they convert so much better. But for most people, if let's say you're doing 10 sales a week, it's not enough data for Facebook to be able to look at it and go, oh, I know just what you're talking about because I've only got 10 sales. It's like just not enough data for them. So ideally what you want to do, you want to optimize towards whatever your funnel looks like. You want to go as far to the sales side as you can while still, it's kind of a balancing act. So as far to the sales side as you can while still sending them a decent amount of data. And that's going to be different for everyone depending on your spend and all that sort of stuff. So it might be lead's got to be kind of the minimum. It might be show up to the webinar, like optimize based on webinar show up. It might be based on the people that clicked the buy button because only about 10% of them buy anyway, right? So that's still 10 times more data than if you're going to the purchase. So as far to the buy side as you can while it's still enough data. And enough data is you're probably looking at about a couple of 100 conversions a week is probably about the sweet spot, I'd say.
Yeah. So as an example, you guys, you would create like you would be passing the data back to Facebook. You would be creating a lookalike audience around, say, everybody that clicks the order link and visits the order form. And you're passing that data back, and you're looking to build a lookalike audience around those guys.
So we do lookalike audiences, but optimizing on is different to lookalike. Yeah. So yeah, we do lookalikes. We do a lot of really broad. I mean, you're spending $100,000 a day. You can't just do lookalikes. You need some really broad stuff, like people that like entrepreneurship and whatever.
So what you're saying is you're setting the conversion event to be order form clicks, as an example.
Well, for us, it's purchase.
Yeah. For you guys at your level, it's purchase. But if someone is starting out for like the first time, maybe with a webinar or maybe with a video sale.
Starting out, you do lead. So registration would be the event that you're optimizing on. And then if you're spending a bit more money and you're starting to scale, then you might want to say optimize on people that show up, for example.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. We are kind of like you. We would have, the way that we start is we would take our buyers, we do a lookalike audience from our buyers. We usually start off there and then we kind of progress, from that point forward. But I like that. Yeah. I like the way that you're talking about doing it there. I would never, that's interesting. That's class. What are some of the big breakthroughs that you guys have had in your business, that are perhaps most memorable in maybe recent times or further? What kind of big breakthroughs stood out for you in your business?
So I will give you some, but just before I get to them, most of our success, I would say, it's very hard to get a 50% bump in anything that you're doing well in the first place, right? If you can get a 50% bump, it means it was done really, really poorly. So I think most of our success is by finding the 5% here and the 10% here and another 5% here and another 10% there. And it just adds up, right? If you can find 6 things to increase by 5%, that's a 30% bump in conversions, which is a 30% bump typically in revenue. But if you're running a business at, let's say, a 20% margin, a 30% bump in revenue, you've more than doubled your profit, right? So I know that's not the answer that anyone wants to hear. They're like, tell me the magic, right? But the magic is in all of the small things and the detail and doing all of the bits right and getting the most out of every single bit. Like our follow-up goes for weeks. We treat our no-shows to the webinar and the partial views and the full attendees, they all get a different email sequence. So I know something that a lot of people do, for example, is I'll send out, so someone registers for the webinar, reminder, and then the webinar happens, and then it's like encore, replay, cart page. But the problem is you've got some people that have watched your whole webinar, they've watched the whole thing, they might be sitting on the fence and you're sending them to an encore. They don't want to go to an encore. They've already seen your webinar. Or vice versa, you get to the other side and you've got someone that hasn't even seen your webinar and you're like, go to my cart page and buy. They're never going to buy if they haven't watched your webinar, a 2K offer on the cart page, right? So those guys, we want to be pushing them back into the webinar. So I guess that kind of is one of the answers to your questions as well. But it's just that, how can I get the most out of every step in the process? So how can I get the most registrations? And we optimize and test every single thing, right? Like if you looked at our landing page, I could tell you every single line on there has been tested to go to that line and just tweaked and optimized, and that's a bit better, right? So on our webinar, there's a trust pilot thing, and we put that in there against not having it there. That gave us, I think it was 10 or 11% bump. But then there's another thing that you expect to work. So we did this thing where Feed America has the thing you can donate to them. It's like every dollar gets 10 meals to the homeless somehow. And so we were like, everyone that signs up, we're going to feed, everyone that registers for the webinar will give a free meal to the homeless. And it hurt conversions. It dropped them down, unfortunately. So that's out. Yeah, I know, right? We were gutted about that. We really, because we spent so much money on advertising. Oh, this would be great. We're going to feed millions. But yeah, it hurt the conversions. But every single thing on that page has been thoroughly tested. Just ratcheting up the conversions, ratcheting up. And that's kind of the key. But I know that that's not the answer you want, so I'll give you some specific ones. Here's one that actually did make a really big difference that I invented. I didn't read it anywhere else. So they hit our landing page, and the first thing they see 3 questions. So they just say a light box. It's over the top of everything else, and it says, why do you want to, so remember, this is a business opportunity. So the first question I think is, why do you want to build a business? And there's 3 options that they can choose: to build a side hustle, to replace my current income, or to build an empire. They choose one of those three and they hit next. And I'll tell you the first iteration of this, and I'll tell you the second iteration. And then the second one is like, what's the second one? I think it might be, how much time do you have to spend on this business? Like 30 minutes a day, 2 hours a day, 8 hours a day. They click that and they hit next. And then I can't remember the last question. I'd have to look it up. But the point is they're pre-framing them, right? So at the end, once they've answered all three questions, the next light box is fantastic. This webinar is perfect for you. Go ahead and register. Now, they actually have to jump through more hoops to get to the registration than if they just went straight to the landing page. But this has given us a huge lift. We've tested it like 3 times, and honestly, 2 of the times I'm like, we must have stuffed up the test. It could not have made a 50% bump in conversions. But even the third time, it was still like an 18% bump, and we're like, whatever it is, it's a lot, right? It gives us a nice bump. So that was the first iteration of it. The second iteration we then did, we squeezed in between the questions. So we'd have question 1, why do you want to build a business to side income, replace my income, or build an empire? They'd check one of them, and then that would take them through to a testimonial on the page and be like, just like Sarah wanted to start a side income too. Look what she had to say. And then testimonial. And then they go to the next question. How much time did you want to spend? They choose that. And then they hit next, and they bring up the next testimonial. They'd be like, just like John. John also only had an hour a day, and look what he had to say. And then now they have to jump through like 6 hoops before they even get to the registration page. And it gives us a nice bump in conversions.
I love hearing that. I mean, if we were to break that down, you think that the first iteration, you think it was like a case of like micro commitments and kind of pre-framing the action that you ultimately wanted? Is that kind of the reasons why you think that initially worked?
More pre-framing the micro commitments, because there's no asking for an email or anything. I'm not asking anything of them. They've just got to click. So I don't really see that as even a micro commitment. It's no sort of commitment, but it does pre-frame it, right? Like, I'm saying, why do you want to come to my webinar is basically what you're asking. You're not wording it like that, but they're like, I really want. I think one of the other questions is, worded another way. Why do you want to start a business? For the time freedom, for the financial freedom, or both? Right? Like, everyone's going to say both, but it doesn't matter. You've got them thinking, I want time freedom, I want financial freedom, I want to replace my income, I hate my job. You've got them thinking about that before they even get the opportunity to register. So you've turned their mind onto, this is what I want, but you're not telling them what you want. So it's not a pitch, you know what I mean? You're getting them basically to pitch themselves. I'm just explaining what a pre-frame is. I know you know.
Yeah, and I love it. We did this with book funnels, and we got a really great bump. What we did was, we would send people to a landing page, and then instead of sending them, they would click to order the book, and instead of going to an order form, we had a pop-up appear. And the headline in the pop-up is, what email address would you like us to send your login details to, to download the book? And what ended up happening was it increased order form conversion rates because it assumed the sale. It assumed that they were going to buy. And, it was just kind of this we did this framing where we assumed the person was going to the order form to buy, and we ended up getting like a higher conversion rate on the order form as a result of doing it than not doing it. So I love this idea of pre-framing. I think that this is one of the things that people should really business owners, marketers, advertisers should really sit down and ponder, a lot, because there is great increases in conversion rates that come from, properly like pre-framing things. We did a lot of testing around financial qualifiers on Facebook. Got massive conversion rate increases from just doing, using financial qualifiers in our ads. We found that, when we tell people that, this is going to take some sort of an investment, they're much more likely to buy, and they're more likely in the business models that we were using. They were much more likely to convert, number one, and spend more money in the funnel, number two. And there's a great guy that I see doing this now. He's a guy that's like has this course that like how to buy luxury watches, and his Facebook ads are, you know, if you have $5,000 and a post office nearby, you know, I'll show you like how to, you know, invest in luxury watches and yada yada yada. And I know I've done a lot of like advertising like that. And again, that kind of pre-frames, it calls out who it is that you're looking for, introduces the cost of the opportunity. And, you know, obviously you get a higher cost per lead there, but you get much higher conversion rates doing that kind of stuff. And I had a supplement client who was selling a supplement and was doing it by using a lead magnet up front. That was his business model. He wanted the lead, but he was using lead magnets that were not really great. And the advice that I gave him was to like turn the lead magnet into something that assumes the sale, you know? So the whole idea was like the top three, I forget what the headline is now, but it was like the top three most effective weight loss supplements in whatever year. And as a result, instead of like, you know, the 10 best recipes, you know, for weight loss, when he changed it to health supplements, that created a far more targeted buyer for what he was ultimately selling there after the opt-in, generated a higher conversion rate. It generated a bigger cost per lead, but it generated a higher conversion rate, and it also generated a higher average order value in his funnel overall. So thinking about like who to target, how to best qualify them, how to best kind of pre-frame the action that you're looking for, there's gold in those hills for sure.
The other advantage of that too, with the pre-qualification, like you said, the guy that said, if you've got $5,000 and whatever, is it comes back to that optimization that I was talking about before. So yeah, you may not be able to optimize based on sale because of volume. Maybe you can only optimize on lead. But if you're qualifying that lead from the start and saying you've got to have $5,000 before they become a lead, Facebook, so anyone without the $5,000 isn't even becoming a lead. Now Facebook's going to just start sending your ads to the people that have $5,000 because they're the ones that are registering. So that you're feeding that data back to Facebook. So you get that as well. All that being said, there's absolute value in that sort of pre-qualification. But that's not what this was. That's not what I was talking about. So what I was talking about isn't a pre-qualification. It's more just getting them in that mindset. Yeah, that pre-frame of getting them to sell themselves, I guess, as opposed to – and funny enough, we did try a pre-qualification type thing, but it was very weak. It had nothing to do with money. It's like, have you got an hour a week or whatever, an hour a day. And it didn't work for us. But maybe it was just too weak. Maybe we need to exclude more people, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a big topic, and it's high level stuff to think along those lines. But definitely, there's
it's just a case of test everything, you know.
Yeah.
Like even this one works so well on the landing page. We're like, wow, that made such a difference. Let's stick it on the cart page. It hurt conversions.
Brilliant.
Yeah, sometimes you can just never tell. Having losing split tests. I always love to beat my control. But
what about cart abandons? Do you guys do anything with cart abandons?
So we don't do anything at all, and I'll tell you why. Like I said, we're already segmenting out. So for our webinar, people land in one of three buckets, and they get a different message for each one. So they get a no-show. You're a no-show. We're going to try and push you back into the webinar. You're a partial view. You already watched some of it. We're going to send you the replay. And you got a full attendee. So you've watched a full attendee doesn't mean you made it all the way to the end of the webinar. It just means you made it to the price drop. So you know there's something for sale. You know how much it is. We typically, this is ballpark figures, but we'll have about an hour up until price drop. And then I insist my speakers speak for at least another hour after that. You need to be pitching. As long as they make it to that price drop, which might be halfway through the whole webinar, that we call that a full attendee. So those full attendees will get a follow-up sequence, a nice long follow-up sequence. Actually, remind me to tell you about the price points. But they'll get a nice long follow-up sequence to try and close the deal with attacking all different like emotional points and all that sort of stuff. Good copy to try and close the sale. And even different payment plans. Yep. And so the way I look at it is, okay, I could get an actual cart abandoned and someone that, maybe started and left or whatever. What would I do differently to that person that I'm not already doing to the person that made it to the end of my pitch? So basically, I guess you could say we have a cart abandon, except we're sending everyone that made it to the end of the pitch the cart abandon sequence, not just people that abandoned cart.
Whether they visit the cart or not, anybody that gets to the end of the pitch is to you as qualified as someone that visits the cart.
Yeah. And so going back, earlier you asked me what are some of the big things that have made big impacts on our business. So here's another one. I'll give you two, actually. So one thing that we do, so our price point is 5 payments of $497, 5 monthly payments of $497. Feel like that $500 just kind of a psychological barrier that we wanted to stay below, and the number of payments doesn't make a huge difference. So 1 to 3, make it 5. And then if they pay in full, we'll cover the last payment for you. And because of that, the math works out that it's one payment of $19.88. So that's the payment plan on the webinar. After the webinar, assuming this is for the full attendees, they made it all the way through, we send them 3 more. So one as soon as they finished, and then another one the next day, and another one the next day. Just, hey, the webinar only special pricing still going. You can go buy it, and obviously better copy than this, but go buy. So we're trying to push them back to the cart page to buy. If we can't get them in those 3 emails, we introduce another payment plan. So the next payment plan, instead of being monthly, will be every 2 weeks, and it'll stretch out a bit longer. So instead of going for 5 months, it might go for 7 months every 2 weeks. And because it's going for longer, and they're paying twice as often at 2 weeks, the dollar amount is much lower. So I think it's like $197. It might even be less than that. It's like $140. I can't remember top of my head, $140 something every 2 weeks. But now all of a sudden, you got this an email subject line says get started today for $143. Like, well, this was $2,000, and then they've got that payment plan. So we do that a couple of times, and we shut that one down, and then we do our little in between, which is a holiday email. I'll tell you about the holiday in a minute, and then we go to our last payment plan, which is weekly for a year. So there you can charge like $54 a week. So it sounds so cheap, right? It's $50 a week. And everyone's like, in my wallet, right? I can afford $50 a week. You do charge a premium. The longer the payment plan, the bigger the premium.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny is we've done in the past where after they've bought the weekly, you go, okay, you've just paid $54. You now owe another $2,900 or whatever it is. I'll tell you what, if you pay it all today, we'll knock $900 off. You're not even discounting off your original one pay. They had it on the cart in the first page, chose not to do it. Still, you upsell them on the one pay, and you get 10% and then upsell to the one pay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Here's 2 things about doing all this stuff. For one, you're going to get a bunch of sales that you wouldn't have otherwise got, right?
Yeah.
But 2, not only will you get the extra long payment plans, so that's all cream, you got to remember. You already had lost not getting the sale before, so it's all cream, it's all extra payments. But not only are you going to get a whole bunch of extra 52 pays and whatever it is, you're also going to get people that click on that and end up taking the one pay anyway, because you just had more to talk about. So now I've got 3 at my normal payment plan. I've got 2 at the second payment plan. I've got my in-between. Then I've got 3 emails at my lowest payment plan. Then I've got a shutdown sequence, then a reopen sequence. I've just got so much that I can keep talking about. Whereas if you're just going to say go buy, how many times can you just email them and say go buy? This gives me something to talk about, and that something to talk about leads to way more sales for us.
And each one of these new offers is obviously it's a new deadline email campaign that you're putting out.
So it's all automated. First of all automated. So they just go through the sequence, and each time it is hurry, quick, act now. It's only lasting for a day, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, so and my next question was, so there is a deadline to it, and my next question was, how long are these offers open for? each new iteration of the offer, of the pricing?
So it's the same offer, different price point. You understand that, right? Yeah, a day each one. I usually just do a day, but I do multiple emails in the day. And actually, so for the 1 year one, so what I do the day before the 1 year one, I send out a survey. And I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about doing something crazy. I'm thinking about doing like $53 a week for a year. Just if you've got any interest, do the survey. Let me know you're interested. So they go to the survey. The survey's got 2 questions. Question 1 is, why do you want this program? So I'm getting them to sell me why they want it. Question 2 is, if I do decide to open this up tomorrow, this price plan, if I decide to open up tomorrow, will you take it? Yes or no? Getting the commit, yes. Now, guess what? They hit that. They hit submit. They go through the thank you page. On the thank you page, hey, tomorrow I'll let you know if I'm going to open it up to the public. But since you took the time to take the survey, you're going to get it anyway. Here's a backdoor link. You can go get the payment plan right now. So I do that, and then the next day, guess what? It's available.
I love that. I think that's genius. That is just brilliant. Brilliant. So when you like, I mean, I can only assume, having never done this, but I can only assume that there is somewhat of like, as you know, with each kind of extension of the pricing and kind of the drop down in price, are you finding that you're picking up perhaps a lower quality customer, and as a result, you are making money that you wouldn't make, but perhaps those guys, you know, that are on the 52-week thing, perhaps they're canceling after 3 weeks. Like, are you finding that there's like a lower quality kind of customer, and the kind of the lower you go with price? Right.
So yes, is the short answer. Yes, they're lower quality. They're not as low as you would expect them to be. So we actually did a sort of analysis at one stage on how many of them are taking the 10K backend, and it's a lot less. But it's not none. Like, we're still converting like 3 or 4% of these 1 year guys into the 10K. So, it's not 15%, but it's not nothing either. So, yeah, they're not. And you're right, they do drop off. But again, you can upsell them into the 1Pay anyway. And even if they drop off after 3 months, well, whatever, you picked up $50 a week. So what's that? $200 a month for 3 months. You picked up $600 from them. We're in the information marketing business. There's almost no cost to deliver. So if you pick up $600 to them, it's probably $550 profit.
I just love this. This is gold. I mean, anybody selling anything, this is a strategy that can make a lot more money for your business. This is absolute gold, man.
I'll give you another strategy if you like. I think you'll like it.
Oh, please keep going.
All right. So something that we do, I'll tell you the first iteration of it, and then I'll tell you the second iteration. So There's a company called marketingboost.com, Marketing Boost. They'll charge you about $30 a month. It's nothing. And they allow you to give away free holidays for high value transactions. This is the way Marketing Boost explains it, and this is the way I explain it to customers. If a resort is empty, they make no money. Obviously, a room in a resort. If it's empty, they make no money. If someone's in there, people will go to the mini bar, they'll go to the bar, they'll get a massage, they'll make some money. So this company has partnered with all these resorts, and you pay them $30 a month, and you can give away these free holidays, basically. Now, it's not quite free. It's free, but with some taxes and tariffs. But I tell them that up front. I say, hey, it's free. It's not quite free. There are some taxes and tariffs, but you will pay a fraction of what you would pay otherwise. So we actually use this as what we call our fast action taker bonus. So you've gone through, you've done your pitch, you drop your price. After the price, I'll typically do the guarantee. Here's the guarantee, which we do a conditional guarantee, by the way. The condition being you just have to take action. You got to do the crap we told you to do in order to claim the refund. And then after the guarantee, we do, hey, I've got a really special bonus. It's only available for anyone that buys in the next 15 minutes. I then get a 15-minute timer up. I tell the speaker, go to Google, type 15-minute countdown timer, and Google will start ticking down. Get a countdown timer up, and then you explain how the whole free holiday works. If you buy the next 15 minutes, you're going to get the holiday. So that just puts a lot of, like, anyone that's on the fence, they're like, oh shit, if I was thinking I was going to take action anyway, I may as well take action now and get the holiday, right? That gave us a really nice bump in conversions as a faster. So now this is our new control with that for conversions. Next thing we tested. Now, instead of that, we'd move the holiday out to the front. So on the thank you page, they don't know anything about the holiday when they're registering for the webinar. They register for the webinar. On the thank you page, it says, hey, congratulations on registering. Your seat is saved. By the way, here's a bonus that you didn't even know about. If you show up to the webinar and if you stay until the end, you're going to get a free holiday, and explain how it works, etc. Now, so we did that. Wow. It meant we had to take it out of the fast action taker bonus. Tested that. They gave us about, I think it was 12, 13% bump by move. So we already got, it was a pretty decent bump by putting it in here. It might have been a 15, 16% bump the first time by putting it in. By moving it out to the front, we got a bump again on top of that by another 11, 12% just because of the increased show and retention rates.
So they were getting it just for staying all the way to the end, even if they didn't buy.
Yes. Because it costs us nothing to give them away. We pay $30 a month once, and we can give away as many as we like.
Yeah, I've known about this for years. I've used it myself over the years, and it's, you know, that when I first learned about this, I was like, this can't be real. I sent my assistant on
one of our staff members went as well.
Yeah, the one that I had at the time, and it was years ago, was a cruise ship. It was like a 3-day cruise around the Bahamas, and I was like, "There's no way that this is legit." It's legit. I sent my my assistant at the time on it. She went with her husband, and they had a 3-day cruise. So yeah, it's a really great strategy. Huh?
There's more to this story.
Oh, please keep going.
Okay, so we moved the holiday out from the front, from here to the front. So had it as a fast mover bonus. We moved it out to the front. That gave us a bump. Now, we got a much higher show rate, much higher retention, a lower conversion though, because they now don't have the time pressure. So we're like, we need to put something in there to give them that fast action taker bonus. So again, this is something we can do because of volume, but you could probably do a version of it. You're going to love this, right? So what we did, I'll tell you the whole thought process. I want to do a prize, like if you buy in this period, you're in the draw to win a prize, and we're going to give away a Tesla, right? So if you buy in this period, everyone that buys in this period, you're in a prize draw. We're going to give away a Tesla. That was the initial thought, and then we thought, well, instead of just giving away a Tesla, what we could do is we'll give away a Tesla at our quarterly events. For you to qualify to win the Tesla, you have to be at the one-day event. So remember, these one-day events are lead gen for our back-end sales. Well, now we're definitely giving away a Tesla. Someone is going to win it, but you've got to be at the event. So you're replying to them, there's not going to be that many people at the event. You've got a pretty damn good chance. Make sure you get your ass to the event, right? So originally we were just going to be, you get a ticket, you can win a prize. And then we thought, problem is if we only do it as the fast mover bonus that gets a ticket, then no one else is incentivized to go to the event. So we changed it. We're like, if you buy at all, you're going to get a ticket to go to the event. And then I want to incentivize some other stuff. So the way I'm positioning it is, hey, we know life's hard, life gets in the way. We want to gamify this. So we're going to incentivize you to take the right actions. So if you rock up to our onboarding call, you're going to get a ticket. If you show up to our goal setting call, which remember, set up for the sale, you get a ticket. Show up at the momentum call, you get a ticket. If you publish your first book, you get a ticket. But if you buy in this 15-minute gap, we'll just give you 15 free tickets for the holiday. So now I've got my incentive to buy in the gap, like to buy in that 15-minute, to push them to get 15 more tickets, better chance of winning the Tesla. I've also incentivized them to go along to all my calls where I'm going to pitch. Plus, I've incentivized them to go to the webinar where we're going to pitch, so we're going to get more back-end sales. Plus, on top of all that, just adding that 15 ticket and the fast action take a bonus gave us a 20% bump in conversions, giving away the Tesla. So we got a bump on the front end that more than pays for the Tesla many, many times over. And we've got so many more people going through the back end as well.
Dude, that's absolutely genius. I've seen. Oh, it's brilliant. I've seen that free holiday thing work. Well, I've seen it work badly. I saw a guy that offered it as the idea was that I'm going to reduce the risk. So if it was selling a health supplement, if you buy this health supplement, it doesn't work out. Not only will I refund you, I'll give you this like 3-day, cruise or whatever it was, and ended up getting like an 80% refund rate because everybody just wanted the cruise, So, but I've also seen it done badly in terms of how it's explained, because it's such this like incredible thing. Like, if you want to get a cruise, it's $3,000 to go on a Caribbean cruise or something. How can you give somebody, like, there's skepticism. So how do you guys describe like how you were able to offer it for free?
Yeah, great question. So I just actually explain the whole thing to them, first of all. So I say to them, when a resort is empty, they make no money. When they have someone in there, they might go to the spa, they might go to the blah, 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 and therefore they'll make some money. And we've partnered with a company that gives away these empty rooms. So I just explain the whole thing. And then I say, look, it's not quite free. There are some small taxes and tariffs involved. So I guess that takes it back to being not too good to be true, but it seems to work. Now, that being said, so we had it as the fast mover bonus, bump conversion, move it out the front, bump conversions. We thought, we'll stick it on the landing page. That hurt conversions. Go figure. This is why we test, right?
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome, man. You're after rocking the mic here. I feel like you need to come back here every week.
So you get me talking about marketing, mate. You won't shut me up.
Oh, this was absolutely awesome, man. I can't thank you enough. What a great call. How many wonderful tactics have you shared here? It's been absolutely amazing. You've always stood out to me, Dan, as somebody who is elite at the top of their game. Absolutely somebody who loves what it is that they do and is passionate about it and doing it at a very high level, man. So it's been an honor and a privilege, an extremely valuable experience to have you on the show here today, man. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
So I'd love to know, of all of the things that Dan and I spoke about on this episode today, which one are you going to implement in your business? Go ahead, share your thoughts below, and I look forward to hearing from you. Also, if you have a question about marketing, advertising, or monetization that you would like my help with, please go ahead, send me an email to caleb@monetizationresearch.com, and I will do my best to answer your question in an upcoming episode. In the next episode, my guest will be Robbie Blanchard, who is one of the leading webinar, product launch, and affiliate marketers in the world. Robbie's ability to generate sales at high volume puts him on a very short list of top dogs in our industry. So please look out for that episode. And as always, the best way to stay in the loop with all things monetization is to join our free newsletter, Monetization Daily. Get it at monetizationresearch.com. We will send you our favorite news, our favorite tips, our greatest discoveries about how to monetize your business, which is ultimately all about increasing your profits. Again, head on over to monetizationresearch.com.